Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on the part of the world you are listening to me from. And you're welcome to another discussion on Beth series Biologists Explain This. But today we'll be discussing something entirely different from biology. You could say a radical departure from biology, but which is born out of necessity to help all of us. Now, let me start off by saying that I wish somebody sat me down when I was younger to know what I'm saying to you now, and it will have made a lot of difference to my life, I'm sure. Because growing up, all I knew was that parents just emphasized go to school, get good grades, get a degree, and everything like that. And then stepping out of school, a lot of things changed. Now, looking back now, it's been more than almost 40 years I left secondary school, high school as you call it, and then I've seen that there are different trajectories. My colleagues and I, we have followed through different parts of life, and then it's a lot of difference because the way things have turned out have been different. Things have turned out entirely different from for all of us, and so it's that picture that experience that I'm bringing to bear in this kind of discussion. And I would love to hear your comments, your feedbacks at the end of this lesson, okay? Because I want us to generate a forum of discussion around this discussion to ensure that we all get better, because it's important for us to have a true picture of the whole essence of education. Now, before we run out of ourselves, or ahead of ourselves rather, let me say this clearly. This whole discussion or this lesson or this presentation is not to discredit education. I've got three sons in the university as at the time I'm doing this recording, and I'm an active teacher, still teaching. Okay, so the idea is, how do we situate what we learn in schools with what we see outside school? And so when you have an idea of what obtains and what will likely be, then you are better prepared for life. So the whole essence of this lesson is to prepare us better for life. Do well in school, excel, do the best that you can do, but you must have a different perspective. So come along with me in this discussion, and let's have a wonderful time of experience, a lifetime experience that will help us to be better and to have a life that is devoid of mystery and disappointment at the end of the day. So let's go. Now let's look at the background to this lesson today, this wonderful discussion. Look around you, you see graduates who are employed by less educated persons. Where I stay in Nigeria, I have somebody else I know who is not even a graduate at all. Did not even study anything to do with engineering, and that's one of the biggest ICT firms in Ibadan in Nigeria. And you see graduates jostling to submit their letter of intent to serve, to do their service here in his organization. So you see graduates with all their first class and 2-1, even postgraduate looking for jobs. Then you have graduates who can't do anything themselves. I mean, they have to be tenants for years. And then the house they're living in was built by an artisan, even a bricklayer, or just a business owner. Then you have graduates who can't buy their own cars because they're boarding taxis and riding bikes. Of course, nothing is bad about this. Of course, after all, in developed countries, you have individuals that leave their cars and board trains where you have good transportation systems or networks. You don't have to take your car everywhere, but at least you have your own, but you just don't want to on some occasions. Then you have graduates living poorer quality of life. Now, you can't just connect the excellence of that person to what is happening now after having left school. And then you look at what a graduate earns as a salary. I mean, it's ridiculous, it's disheartening to see exactly what a graduate earns compared to what somebody makes, either as an athlete or as a footballer or somebody else outside school. Okay, so and then you have the high hopes of course, when you before you entered high school, there was hope. When you were entering the university, you had hopes. You are working so hard to have a first class, you had hope, and then when you graduated, you got everything, the degree certificate and everything else. You are okay, everything was hopeful. Then you left school, and suddenly everything changed. Okay, so we are still on the background to this discussion on this lesson. And then you've got first class graduates. Of course, you need your best brains at the lower rung of the academic ladder, so that, because most often students don't have a good foundation and they carry that deficiency to the higher level, weak primary level, weak understanding at secondary level, and it translates to something terrible as you go higher. Okay, so you've got that. I mean, you would have expected that a first class graduate should have the best of jobs, you have the best of opportunities and things like that. And then you've got school leavers complaining there's no job. The moment you left school, you are just submitting your CV everywhere, aptitude tests all over the places, and then you're wondering what the hell is going on. And then you got this issue of and so we got a group of youths, teeming youths, that are grossly unemployed all over the place. And then you begin to And then you begin to see joblessness all over the places, and you begin to wonder, all those fantastic stuff learned in school, taught by lecturers, and then you spend sleepless nights cramming those stuff, reading them, hours spent in the examination hall, the anxiety of results coming, and then all of those things are not translating into being gainfully employed after having left school. And then suddenly the joblessness turns to frustration, despondency, disappointment. And then you begin to see yourself as a failure, because all those things you learned, all those things that you gathered, you begin to wonder what happened to you. Am I a failure? You ain't a failure. It's just that the system just didn't prepare you for life outside school. And if the truth be told, there are thousands of unemployed graduates all over the place. Thousands. And so every time there's a ceremony being held, you have a ceremony that you are holding it, you call this eminent personality to come and speak, and then everybody taking photographs, they are cooking stuff, everybody's excited and happy, and then you are having this graduation ceremony, and then what you are doing is you are churning out lots of thousands of youths who don't have a clue of what life is about. So look on the screen there, you see a lot of youths in the background, all of them teeming youths, just mostly having no direction whatsoever, no clue as to what to do with their degrees. So let's look at something else. Let's begin to look at this comparison. What school doesn't teach, and let's look at that vis-a-vis what school teaches. And then as you go deeper, you begin to have ideas about what we are going to be talking about. Now let's look at on the left side, you see what school teaches. What does school teach? Okay, so school teaches us to work for money, not for money working for us. It's a different world entirely. If you're working for money, 9 to 5, you're 7 to 5, you wake up in the morning, your time into your own, even weekends, taking off night and stuff like that. And so there's a between working hard and working smart. And then you have to fit into the system. You have to dress in a particular way. It's even funny in the tropics, like Nigeria, you got schools where to have an identity in codes, they have school uniforms where the students have to wear suits. I mean, suits with ties. I mean, imagine a hot weather in the tropics like this, and then you've got no ACs, no conditioning systems in the classrooms, just look at stereotypic things. And then of course school teaches you about mitochondria being the powerhouse. You stuff your brains and your minds with all kinds of knowledge, things that you cannot even see, you cannot, all you know is that they said it, you believed it, and you never sat down to wonder one day, how would this translate to better life for me? Okay, you just acquiring knowledge and accumulating theories and concepts, as it were. And let's look at what school doesn't teach or talk about. And so I wish school owners, proprietors, policy makers, ministers of education and things like that, those who are concerned with the formulation of education policies in nations, to begin to sit down and try to look at what we are discussing. Because education without application is nonsense. That's the reality. Because I mean, education. I mean, somebody spent years of those things. And funny thing, even lecturers don't even display what you are teaching. I mean, it would be easy if for a student if what is being taught over the years, the students can see it. So even lecturers or teachers aren't even demonstrating the applicability of what is being taught. You just buy this book and then stuff yourself, sit for the examination, and then get the grades and move on. So you don't know how to handle money. Don't know what it means to be circumspect and careful with money. And then school never teaches you how to start a business. It's how to look for a job. And then you can't manage time. There's a lot of time that is being wasted on things that are not relevant. I mean, a lot of things being taught in the curricula today in schools are not relevant to the life outside. What an apprentice will learn under his or her master in a few months or years, a graduate may not even learn in school for 5 years of studying engineering. And then you've got how to manage time, how to invest money, how to the principles of success, and how to do taxes, how to do so many stuff that I never thought. So let's get out to the nitty gritty here. What does school actually teach? Okay, now the school will teach us that once the authority says this is the gospel truth, you can't. The truth comes from the top. You can't question the authorities, and then intelligence is what is endorsed by memorization. If you look at the computer language now, it's just garbage in, garbage out. What you gave me, just give me exactly what I gave you. If you have a dissenting opinion, you are in trouble. There are students who have been at contrasting hand with their lecturers because they seem to think that they know more and they are questioning their lecturers. It's failure. You see somebody having A's or A plus and B plus and all kinds of grades because he or she can memorize, can cram stuff, and you are trying to be analytical and things like that, and the lecturer is wondering what's wrong with you. Do you know much more than I do and things like that? And so memory and repetition are rewarded. Okay, so you can just do well. In some cases, you can just photocopy, get copies of past years questions, and then just practice them, and then you see yourself do very well, and you are just studying and things like that. So school teaches you that just memorize, just give the lecturer or the teacher what he or she sent back to you, or what you got from the textbook, send it back to the lecturer or the teacher, and then if you don't conform, if you don't comply, you'll be punished. Okay, you'll be dealt with, and then you have to do things in a collective manner. You can't try to be different. You can't try to be on your own. So collectivism is what is advocated. Okay, and then you've got this issue of being a conformist. You just have to just conform. I mean, this is the way we want it. This is the way it's got to be done, and that's a problem here. Okay, this is the way I want the answer to be written. This is the way I want you. I mean, you can't try to explore. You can't try to experiment. You just have to do it the way it was taught. Still on what school teaches us that truth comes from the authority. Intelligence is the ability to remember and repeat. So if you can repeat stuff, you are termed intelligent. That is wrong. It will shock you if you left school. That is not what you crammed, it's what you can do. So applicability is the most important thing. And then accurate memory and repetition rewarded. Non-compliance is punished. Collectivism is the greater good. And then you have to do things in a way that it's instructed. And then school doesn't teach how to sell, how to think, how to negotiate, okay, how to face failure. We'll talk about failure in subsequent video. Okay, what does it mean to fail? What should be your response to failure? How you're not taught how to invest. You can't find your passion. It's difficult to find passion because it's the way it is done, the way it is regimented. Okay, I mean, from semester to semester, term to term, there's a particular curriculum. It's got to be conformed to, and that's a big deal here now. You can't try to dare to be different. If you're daring, you'll be in trouble. And then handling of money, because at the end of the day, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, every one of those needs is based on resources, money, finance, your clothing, your accommodation, your feeding. Everything has got to do with money, finance. So what should I know as a student in school right now? No matter your hierarchy, high school, university, postgraduate, what should I know as I'm studying stuff? What should be at the back of my mind? I have to learn how to make impact in the society. Okay, impact means you are solving problem. If you are listening to me now, for example, if everybody knows about Joseph, okay, I'm sure Joseph also is in the Quran. What did Joseph do that promoted Joseph? All he did was to interpret Pharaoh's dream. That's all. That's all, nothing else. So if you ain't solving problem, because money is tied to problems, that's what we all are getting to understand after we left school, that money is tied to solving problems. Everyone who became great later in life had to solve a problem. So you can imagine what it was like not having to travel. I mean, you can imagine trekking in those days, and then aeroplanes came, and then you have all kinds of things. In those days, you couldn't communicate. I grew up in the 70s. Just imagine you couldn't communicate, and then no phones, nothing, no internet. I mean, it was difficult to receive messages and to correspond. I mean, correspondence was just difficult. So it was a problem like that. And then investment was a problem. You have to know what percentage of my income or revenue should I invest, what percentage should I consume, and things like that. And then there is the issue of emotional awareness. I mean, the environment you are living in is sometimes unreasonable. Okay, you have to look at the pulse or the needs of the people. It's not what you want. What exactly is or are the need or needs of the people? You have to solve problems, get to the people. You must have a target customer base. Your clientele must be understood. So you have to be aware of the emotional aspect of everything. It's not just being resolute. You have to understand that on the streets there are mood swings outside there. So rules of engagement here now. Okay, if you are not a Christian, permit me for having to use this quotation, but it's just cuts across. Now, the issue is that in this scripture is saying that if anyone is competing in athletics, meaning a race, so life is a race, okay? No matter when you are born, you are in a race with other people competing for the same kinds of people that you have. If you are in a business, you have to contend with customers, you have to contend with competitors in that field, in that business. You are not crowned, meaning you don't achieve anything unless you compete according to rules. Everything in life has rules. The rules of athletics ain't the same thing as rules in boxing. Neither is it the same rule in business. Even in business, there are all kinds of businesses. Okay, if you're trading in clothing, it's not the same thing as trading in building materials. Every kind of business has rules of engagement. And what do we refer to as rule of engagement? The rules that you have to abide by once you are in school, they are entirely different. Life is not regimented, life is not programmed. You have to fit in, you have to find your footing, you have to find your own niche somehow. Because in the school, somebody dictated how you behaved. There was a timetable when to come into the class, the bell is rung and things like that. When you came in, when you left, there was a program. So everything was programmed for you. So you got a semester calendar that everybody knows from the beginning and things like that. It's not the same thing out there on the streets. Still on rules of engagement, what does it mean? Now, it is often used in military terms, and it talks about the fact that a particular superior officer gives orders, okay, orders about when, where, how, and against whom a particular effort should be geared or force should be applied. And there are implications for whatever anybody did that's against authority. So if you are leaving school that was regimented and programmed and predictable to the outside world where environment keeps changing for so many reasons, then you have to understand that the rules in school are entirely different from the rules out there. So you have to have a streetwise sense, the strength of a hustler, the strength of somebody else who is able to fight for what he or she believes in. Now, still on the rules of engagement, okay, you've got rules, okay, directives, and so those rules define the circumstances, the conditions, the degree or extent, and the manner of the nature in which a particular approach has to be adopted. I want to go over these rules of engagement and begin to look at what are the rules I have to abide by, what are the rules are contravening, so that are putting me in trouble. So let's look at 7 aspects of engagement. They can be more than these, but just basic ones. You've got to be responsive. What what is there? What is there that you have to respond to? What is the environment you live in or you find yourself in? What is it dictating? You've got to be curious, find things out. Okay, unlike what the author has written in the case of when you're in a school setting, everything you will need is in the books. The teacher comes and asks to what the book has said, or just gives you exactly what the book also said. So you've got to be curious, probe, ask questions, then discover new things, find new ways, better ways, easier ways of solving the same problems. You can meet a particular need in a different way because the world is looking for solutions. That's the issue here. And you've got to anticipate, be proactive, not being responsive, but anticipate. You can predict, for example, what can happen, looking at the trend of events, what might likely happen in the next couple of months or years. Then you've got to be persistent. Failure once or disappointment once does not mean that that thing cannot work. It only means that you have to do it differently, find a better way. When they were talking to Thomas Edison about how many times he failed in trying to develop the bulb, he said all he did was he learned thousands of ways not to make the same mistakes again. So he saw every failure as an opportunity to do things in a much better way and not repeat the same mistakes again. So every mistake was climbing a ladder to get nearer and nearer to the intended end. And then you have to initiate things, be a pioneer rather than just following what others have been doing, and investigate, find out why what, not just following what is being said or done. So you've got nobody to blame. School is regimented. Unfortunately, you can't blame your parents because if they knew better, they would have done better. Sometimes all the parents knew was what they were exposed to. Generations have different environments. What obtained in the 70s and in the 80s and the same thing obtaining now in the 21st century. So you can't blame anybody. Now that you find yourself in this situation, what can you do to get out of it and be the best that you can be? So the issue is that you are going to discover leaving school how you have to manage your abilities, your talents, your purpose, and time. There's a lot of time wasting in this generation. I mean, the time people waste on TikTok, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, just 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 watching memes and laughing off time. If you are 15, 16, 20 now, add 10 years to your age, you ain't getting younger anymore. I wish somebody told me this when I was younger. That's why you see time in red. It's an alarm. Every day of your life is either you are gaining or you are losing, and you cannot recover time. There are things in life that you cannot recover. Time is irrecoverable. And so you have to look at how to manage the resources that God has given you. You have been given abilities, talents. No matter how good you are, talents alone won't make you great. You won't succeed. Ronaldo and Messi, people talk about them. They said Ronaldo, Messi is natural talent. Okay, Ronaldo works harder. If Ronaldo did not work harder, how will he have won all the Ballon d'Ors he won? So if he was not around, just imagine how many awards that Messi will have won without Ronaldo. So there are times that even the most talented people don't get to their peaks in life. There are people who are far, far better than both these two people. I mean, Kaka was there. He once won the best bowler of the year. There was Ronaldinho at a particular point. Then Jojo Ponwea, an African, okay, from Liberia. So many people have done stuff, but how far did they go in life? That's the thing. So it's not about criticizing other people. Look at yourself and mind your own situation appropriately. Now look at this slide. This is me drawing. I'm sure most of my students will not know I can do this. I'm an artist, okay, natural artist. I'm sure I had a teacher in my secondary school, Mrs. Doe, God bless her. I mean, she really wanted me to be an artist. She believed so much in me, but I thought I could balance art with being a scientist, a biologist particularly. And so I just didn't bother. So what I'm trying to do is just to show you that even no matter what you are pursuing in life, you have other gifts and talents that you can market. So this is me as an artist, just trying to show you that there's something about you that you have to unearth, bring to fore, and maximize. So school is regimented, but the real you is you who determines what you do with your abilities and your talents, because school will not do that for you. And so we come to the fact that you've got to learn something. Learn something. I mean, matter. I mean, like I said previously, time is being wasted by this generation. See, sometimes you close at 12 p.m., 1 p.m. Lectures stop sometimes at 1 p.m. and you are doing nothing for the rest of the day. Why you have ended the lectures, get the certification, learn something, because eventually you get to a point where you can't do some things anymore because age catches up with you, or you have more competitors. So look at learning some things earlier. These are just some of the things that you can learn that make you to stand out in different fields of human endeavor. And so we come to something crucial. Now, these two words don't exist anywhere. They are my coinage. I count them while thinking about life struggles. Now, cellulocentrism talks about emphasis on paper. Cellulose material, cellulose is what you have in paper. Okay, cellulose is material in paper because when you process it, so the idea came from anything that emphasizes degree qualifications, just paper, just the way it is done, because what is on paper, it cannot be altered. Okay, it's just written black and white, and then you just have to take it the way it is written. So when the emphasis is on acquisition or accumulation of degrees, papers, qualification, without any recourse to how to apply what is being learned, as against cerebral trend. I mean, just look at cerebrocentric mentality talks about when cerebrum is the part of the brain that controls mood, behavior, intelligence, consciousness, and things like that. So when you are not thinking, but you are learning, that's the problem. You're just cramming. Okay. So when you look at cellulocentric mentality as against cerebrocentrism, it means that if you see the word view, so the diagram to your right in front of cerebrocentric mentality is talking about see the world from a mindset. You must have a world view of everything. School can be an enclosure. I've been teaching Cambridge A level for 20 something years now, and I've had to teach students from in and out of my country, even from fantastic secondary schools in quotes, very expensive high schools people come from. And then when you begin to meet them, you begin to find that the cost of what they paid or what they paid in secondary school does not reflect in their mentality. But they are proud because they went to a very expensive school and they carried that on their head. But no matter how expensive the school you attended might have been, it doesn't transform you. It's just you. So once you left that environment, you are in a different place entirely. So in your mentality, start thinking, how do I process information? How do I analyze what is going on around me before, now, and tomorrow? So instead of, because the way it is now, when somebody is looking for a job and does not get a job with his or first degree, he or she turns to master's degree and then goes through that, no job again, then you want to do a PhD and things like that. You keep accumulating qualifications without looking for how to be relevant. Relevance is the key. How can I be relevant in my generation? Do I have? What do I do? What do I have to offer that people will pay me for? So look at the concept of cellulocentrism and cerebrocentrism, meaning using your brain and your minds more than just thinking that once you have a first degree or first class, you are going to get a job. There ain't nothing out there. It's not automatic, but who you are is what stands you out eventually. So let's get a little biological. Now, Darwin talked about the usual theory of organic evolution by natural selection. Now, what natural selection? Natural selection talks about the effect of the environment. Now, it was saying that some individuals, by virtue of what they can express, what they can do. Now, remember, Selection in biology does not act on genotype. Let me say that again for you as a biologist listening to me. Selection does not act on genotype. It acts on phenotype. Let me explain this in a simple way. Now imagine there was an epidemic in a population. Okay, epidemic is an unfavorable condition, an outbreak of a disease. Now, environmental factors that are unfavorable, you call them selection pressure. They can be drought, okay? They can be, suddenly water dried up, the food can be exhausted, there's famine. Something that went wrong is referred to as selection pressure. So the environment you are familiar with, where things were okay, suddenly have changed. It can take the form of directional pressures, disruptive pressures, or stabilizing. So in our study later on evolution, we discussed this, but selection pressure will be there. The moment you have left school, there will be pressure, because everybody is hustling for how to survive in life. So Darwin talks about the way Darwin defined that theory of evolution then was survival of the fittest. You ain't fit. Your fitness is not about your 7 packs or something. It's about how do you fit in, how better adapted are you to the prevailing or to the existing environment. So the concept of Darwinism now is struggle for existence. Unlike survival of the fittest, you are not fit because of what you have. You are fit because of what you can do. So if some individuals are resistant to the disease that just broke out, resistance is a phenotype, is what you can do under the prevailing circumstance. Those who don't have resistance, they will die. So that's why I said that selection does not act on genotype but on phenotype. And so, of course, survivors are the ones who can grow and then interbreed among themselves. And by reproduction, the alleles that made them survive that selection pressure will be more common. So allele frequency will change eventually. Something like Weinberg talks about, allele frequency will always change for there to be evolution, meaning how often are some alleles being expressed by individuals of that population. And so the idea is that in nature is those who are better adapted, those who can do what others can do, that will always survive any prevailing environment. That is the concept of natural selection. Not that anybody is favored. You just have to have something that when you begin to use it, apply it, express it, it gives you an edge over the other. So the idea of Darwinism is the concept of survival. Okay, survival. How do you survive having left school? The school can say you are the best. That is based on degree. Your math, you are scoring 90%. Get out there. Your math concept becomes useless if you cannot translate it to application to get involved and relevant. So it's the issue of conversion. How do you adapt from regimented life of school timetable to everything is just not organized, but there are still rules out there. So you have to have that consciousness of adaptation. How do I adapt to life outside school? That is the idea. So the concept of natural selection is that better adapted individuals, those who can cope, those who seem to have this ability to survive a particular environment, are the ones that will always exist and prevail and increase in number in any particular environment. And so we come to something still on the concept of natural selection. Look at these individuals, okay, and tell me what they all have in common, okay. I deliberately removed Albert Einstein from there because his success is still tied to education. These were all individuals who were written off in the school, or they walked out of school for one reason or the other. They just didn't fit in. I'm not saying you should leave school, but you can be in school. I like what they do in basketball, okay, and American football, where you are, even in cricket, where you have drafts, where you can, school structure, a school structure should help the student to balance skill with school timetable. If you have a system of education that doesn't help the student to build their talent, it's a waste. That system should be shut down. The school system should be structured in such a way that it helps the student to maximize their talent and their gifts. There are people who may not be good. I remember when I was in high school, there were some of us who were very good, fantastically good. I had a guy in school that used to draw buildings. We'll use a old notebook to draw buildings, and we'll color those buildings. Nobody taught him architecture, but when we sat for exams, he couldn't do well in math and English and other subjects. He was supposed to repeat, and so he left school. So many things have gone wrong because people have been rightly placed. The school puts you in a mode. There's nothing called all things fit everyone. I mean, some even learning approaches can differ. There are people who are kinesthetics. If you're not demonstrating, showing them things, the class is boring. Some is auditory, some is visual. They are even learning styles, but everybody is meant to just sit down there, listen to what the teacher is saying, and then if you don't have any other way to think, it's just stereotypic. It doesn't help in the long run. And so we are looking at this scenario of the fact that we should look at the system in which we have found ourselves. How do we adapt, and what do we do to fit in? So look at all these guys on the screen and look at what you know about them, and tell me. Let's start a discussion on our group on YouTube and or any other platform. Let's just discuss and begin to find out how do we know, what do we know about these individuals, read about them, their profiles, and get back to me. And as a round off, I'm recommending these two movies. Okay, Three Idiots. If you love school and you want to look at what school does to people, sometimes school systems kill talents. Let me say that again. Sometimes school systems kill talents. There are a lot of things that go on in schools that kill talents of students. So many things go on killing abilities of students, making students feel inferior because they can't have A or A star or B, whatever. Grades don't determine everything in life. You can have all the grades, all the first class and everything, and still be worse off eventually. So I want you to watch those videos and let me hear your comments and your feedback. At the end of it all, and the end of it all, I want your questions or comments, your feedbacks on this very interesting and also controversial recording I've done today. I'm sure there will be all kind of questions being raised. So am I saying that school is not good? Of course not. Like I said earlier on, I've got 3 sons in the university, okay, studying different courses, and I'm still also a teacher myself. But the question is, we need to re-engineer the school system. We need to begin to prepare students for life. Let's go beyond grades and prepare our students for life. So get across and get in touch with me through WhatsApp, email, Instagram, YouTube, and let this video go viral. Like, share, comment, and please subscribe. Okay, so the more people can come across this, the more people can prepare their minds for what's ahead. If you knew what's going to happen to you when you left school, you'll be much more prepared than we are now. So it's a matter of preparation. So it's to help us prepare for life outside school. So if you've learned a lot of life lessons from this video, I hope to connect with you next time. Remember, I still remain your friend, Peter Sabiodun, and I want to stay with you and work with you in the course of your life's journey. We work together, we succeed together. So see you next time. Bye.